Wreck is a demonic horror movie. So, first off, I like to point out on the cover of the DVD it says the movie that inspired Quarantine. So, not only did Quarantine rip off this movie is shouting out Quarantine, while on the Quarantine cover there is no shout out to this movie. Just putting that out there. So, a news reporter is basically doing this late night show, and it's about firefighters and basically what they do behind the scenes. And they get this call because this lady is trapped in her room. Something happened to her. So, firefighters, they don't always go to fires, they do all types of other stuff. So, they get there, and it's just this old lady, and she is just something's wrong with her. And just off rip, she ends up biting into the neck of this police officer, and he's losing lots of blood. They take him downstairs, and then panic sets in, and a firefighter, the one that stayed up there with the old lady, gets thrown off of, it's like a couple levels up, and he falls, splatters, but he's still alive. And just around this point, the remaining firefighter and police officer, they're all panicked, trying to calm down the people in this little apartment complex, living place. And then they try to get the hurt people outside, realize they're locked down. Government, police have locked down this building, and they are just not telling anybody inside what's happening. And it's just kind of them realizing, oh, something is up. This shit is just no bueno. And basically, without too many spoilers, zombies, quote unquote. That's kind of what you think it is. Wreck 2, the sequel, explains a lot more, and at the end of this movie, they kind of explain what it is. But I'll get more into that in my review because it's kind of spoilers. And it's just this news reporter lady and her cameraman trying to survive all this chaos and undead people coming after them, and they're just stuck in this apartment complex, and if they try to leave, they'll just get killed, and it's not good. So, my review to Wreck, and honestly, I don't even know if that's what it's called. I don't know if it's like just called Record, Wreck, Reek, who knows, .Wreck, I just don't know. But nonetheless, this movie is definitely way better than Quarantine. Let's just get that out. Quarantine did a couple things better, and obviously they copy and pasted the movie after it came out. You can only do things better, so I don't understand how it wasn't really all that better. They really dropped the ball. I think the director, geez, I'm rambling. The director just didn't get it. The directing in this movie was outstanding, and especially the end of the movie. Like, the end of the movie is definitely way, way better in this movie than in Quarantine. But Quarantine did do a couple things better, and I'm not really even going to talk about that in the review for Quarantine, which I'm doing next. I'm just going to talk about it in this movie. So, Quarantine, when they shoot the old lady at first, in Quarantine it looked a lot better. When the quarantine guy comes in and quarantine and drills into their head, that was a lot better than this one, because this in Wreck they only like injected dude with something. In Quarantine, when the little girl first goes crazy, she actually bites the mom, which I liked. And in this one, she just like spits in her face. So Quarantine did better on that. And lastly, when everything starts popping off and they run into the room and everybody's asking each other if they've been bit, and then the one guy panics, and this isn't Quarantine, and he like runs to the window and like starts cutting the plastic and then gets shot in his head. Like, I thought that was pretty good. While in Wreck, they just didn't have that part, and that's kind of what I thought Quarantine was definitely going to like do more of, is expand. But it really just was a copy and paste, and a lot of parts just were almost exactly the same. And the end of the Quarantine was just not nearly as good as this, which basically in Quarantine it's about rabies and shit, and in this one, the spoiler is at the very end, you find out it's about possessions, and it really goes more into the possessions in Wreck 2. So they're not actually zombies and they don't have rabies. They're actually like possessed by the devil. They're like demonic entities and shit. So, which is like a nice little twist. So I just in general think this is like Wreck is so much better than Quarantine. That is just even crazy that they just made that movie. Like, I don't know if they got sued. I don't know why you would make a movie and it be worse than the movie you basically copied off of. It's just incredible. Like, the acting in this movie was good, directing was good, the practical effects was good, the story was good. This is honestly like an insanely good movie. I've seen this movie a couple times, definitely more than I've seen Quarantine. Yeah. So this was less of like a review and me more just comparing, but there was some review shit in it. But nonetheless, just way better. But Quarantine's not bad because this movie and the story just isn't bad. So with that being said, Quarantine isn't bad. My recommendation though for Wreck, and this is highly recommended easily, this is just a chaotic good film. Also, something to point out that I should have done in my review is the final creature in Wreck looked 100 times better than the final creature in Quarantine, and they're supposed to be the same. I don't get how Quarantine dropped the ball that hard, and I'll talk about how it dropped the ball in the review on Quarantine. So if you want to know how that played out, watch that review. But yes, highly recommended.